Today we're going to hear an amazing story about the art of legal warfare, betrayal, deception, and the ultimate revenge. On the 47th floor of a glass high-rise, Alex Carter sat behind a massive oak desk, the city's skyline stretching endlessly beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. The faint hum of traffic below blended with the soft clink of ice in his glass of single malt whiskey. His phone screen glowed in the dimly lit office. Messages, emails, call logs. It was all there. Undeniable evidence of betrayal. The name at the top of the screen, Sophia Bennett. Alex had spent 4 years building a life with her, believing in their partnership, both professionally and personally. She had been his most trusted confidant, the one person who understood the ruthless world they inhabited. But now everything had changed. His best friend, Ryan, had sent the final damning proof. A grainy photo taken just hours ago. Sophia, stepping out of Damien Caldwell's penthouse. Damien Caldwell, the man Alex had spent the last year battling in court. His most vicious rival, a shark in the world of high-stakes corporate law. And now, the man who had taken more than just a case from him. But Alex didn't rage. He didn't scream. Emotion had no place in warfare. Instead, he took a slow sip of whiskey and set his phone down. If Damien and Sophia thought they had beaten him, they were mistaken. Alex Carter wasn't just a lawyer. He was a strategist. And this wasn't heartbreak. This was war. The next morning, Alex arrived at the offices of Henderson & Carter LLP, his law firm, wearing the same crisp, tailored suit as always. His expression was unreadable, calm, controlled, the same man who had built a reputation as one of the sharpest legal minds in New York. But inside, the war had already begun. As he walked through the sleek, glass-walled corridors, associates and paralegals nodded in respect. Everyone knew Alex Carter was in the fight of his career. A multi-billion-dollar corporate lawsuit against Caldwell and Associates. Damien Caldwell had been outmaneuvering him for weeks, countering every legal move, anticipating every strategy. Now Alex knew why. Sophia had been feeding Damien privileged information. But instead of confronting her, instead of tipping his hand, Alex played the long game. Alex called a meeting with his team. Senior partners, junior associates, and litigation specialists filled the sleek conference room, the air tense with anticipation. "Let's reassess our approach," he said, his voice steady. "I want a new strategy, one that makes Caldwell think he's already won." He outlined a series of legal arguments, ones that looked airtight on the surface but contained subtle weaknesses. The kind of arguments that, if relied on too heavily, could become catastrophic in court. His team didn't question him. They trusted Alex Carter's instincts. Later that day, in his private office, Alex received exactly what he expected, an email from Sophia. "We need to talk. I feel like you've been distant." He smirked. Of course, she had noticed the shift. He replied simply, "Busy with work. We'll talk soon." What he didn't say was that he already had an answer for every lie she would tell. That evening, he met Ryan at a rooftop bar overlooking the Hudson. His best friend had been the one to uncover Sophia's betrayal, and now he was ready to help Alex dismantle both her and Damien. "She doesn't know you know," Ryan said, sipping his drink. "That gives you the advantage." "Exactly," Alex replied. "And I plan to use it." His voice was calm, but his mind was already 5 steps ahead. This wasn't about revenge. It was about taking back control. Alex Carter didn't believe in fate. He believed in leverage, timing, and control. And now he had all three. The first phase of his plan had already begun. Feeding false information to Sophia, knowing she would pass it to Damien. But that was just the opening move. Now it was time for the real game to begin. The courtroom trap. 3 days later, Alex stood before the judge in the towering Manhattan courthouse. The Caldwell and Associates versus Harrington Tech case was the biggest corporate trial of the year, and every legal mind in the city was watching. Damien Caldwell sat across from him, exuding his usual arrogance. Sophia wasn't in the courtroom, but Alex knew she was involved, watching from the shadows, still playing her part in Damien's strategy. But what neither of them realized was that they were walking straight into Alex's trap. Over the past week, Alex had subtly shifted his legal arguments. He had let his team discuss specific strategies during calls and in emails, knowing Sophia would leak them to Damien. And now, Caldwell's entire case was built on a foundation of lies. As Damien's lead attorney presented their argument, Alex caught the subtle flicker of confidence in Damien's eyes. He truly believed he had outmaneuvered Alex. That confidence would be his downfall. When it was Alex's turn, he adjusted his cufflinks and approached the bench. "Your Honor," he began smoothly, "my opposing counsel has just argued that my client, Harrington Tech, engaged in fraudulent contract negotiations. However, the evidence they have submitted is based on an outdated corporate structuring model, one that was revised months before the disputed agreements were signed." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Alex turned to the jury, his voice calm, controlled. "In other words, the entire premise of their case is based on incorrect assumptions, and I can prove it." He handed a folder to the court clerk. The documents inside, real ones, not the fabricated leaks, completely dismantled Damien's argument. Damien's smirk disappeared. He shot a quick glance at his attorneys, then at the judge, realizing, too late, that he had walked into a trap. Alex allowed himself the smallest of smiles. This was only the beginning. For the first time in months, Damien Caldwell looked uncertain. Alex had spent years studying his rival, learning his weaknesses, and if there was one thing Damien hated, it was losing control. Alex watched as Damien whispered something to his second chair attorney, his jaw tightening. The jury had noticed. The judge had noticed. Good. The courtroom was silent as the judge reviewed the documents Alex had just presented. Then, after what felt like an eternity, he looked directly at Damien. "Mr. Caldwell," the judge said, his voice even but firm, "do you have a response to this?" Damien hesitated, a fraction of a second too long. "Your Honor," he finally said, clearing his throat, "we were unaware of this updated structuring model. We request time to verify its authenticity." A weak response. A desperate response. Alex kept his face neutral, but inside, he knew he had him. "Request denied," the judge ruled. "You had ample time to conduct discovery. Mr. Carter, please continue." Alex turned back to the jury, his voice smooth as silk. "What my opposing counsel just admitted, on the record, is that their entire argument was based on incorrect information. They failed to do their due diligence, and now they want a second chance." He let the words settle. But in the world of high-stakes business, there are no second chances. The jury was listening. More importantly, they were believing him. Damien shifted in his seat, his confidence cracking. Sophia had given him exactly what Alex wanted her to. And now, Caldwell's case was crumbling before the entire courtroom. But Alex wasn't done yet. That night, as the city lights flickered outside his penthouse, Alex poured himself a drink and checked his phone. One new message. From Sophia. "Alex, please, we need to talk." He exhaled slowly, staring at the text. Did she suspect something? Did she realize she had played directly into his hands? He took another sip of whiskey, then typed a response. "Not tonight. Tomorrow. My place." Then he put his phone down and leaned back in his chair. Tomorrow, Sophia would try to explain herself. Try to manipulate him, just as she had before. But what she didn't know was that Alex already had a plan. And by the time their conversation was over, she would never see him the same way again. Alex Carter never let emotions cloud his judgment. But tonight, as he stood in his penthouse, waiting for Sophia to arrive, he felt something unfamiliar. Not anger, not sadness, something colder. He had spent the last few weeks playing the long game, letting Sophia believe she still held influence over him. But now it was time to end it. The intercom buzzed. He walked to the panel and pressed the button. "Come up." A minute later, Sophia stepped into his penthouse. She looked perfect, as always. A tailored black dress, heels that clicked softly against his floor, her blonde hair cascading over her shoulders. For a brief second, Alex almost admired her, the woman who had deceived him so well. She hesitated, searching his face. "Alex." He didn't respond, just gestured toward the living room. She sighed, stepping past him, taking a seat on the couch. "I know something's wrong. You've been distant." Alex poured 2 glasses of whiskey and handed her one. He sat across from her, watching, waiting. "You tell me," he said coolly. Sophia bit her lip, a flicker of guilt flashing across her face. Or was it just another performance? "I never wanted to hurt you," she said softly. "Damien, he manipulated me. He told me things about you, made me doubt us. I was confused, Alex." Alex took a slow sip of his drink. She was good, but not good enough. Confused? He set his glass down. "That's interesting, because you weren't confused when you spent nights in his penthouse. You weren't confused when you sent him privileged legal information." Sophia flinched. Alex leaned forward, his voice steady. "Do you even understand what you've done? You handed him weapons to use against me. You thought he would protect you, but you were nothing more than a tool. And now that he's losing, he'll discard you." Her breathing was uneven now. "Alex, He cut her off. No more lies. Silence. She looked down at her hands, her fingers gripping the glass. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "What happens now?" Alex studied her for a moment. He could have destroyed her right there, revealed everything, thrown her out, ended it brutally. But no, that wasn't his style. Instead, he reached into a drawer beside him and pulled out a white envelope. He slid it across the table. "This is what happens now." Sophia hesitated, then picked it up, her fingers trembling as she opened it. Her eyes widened. Divorce papers. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Alex." He stood up, buttoning his jacket. "It's over, Sophia." She swallowed hard. "You really think Damien will just let me walk away?" Alex smirked. "I don't think Damien will have a choice." She stared at him, realization dawning. "What did you do?" Alex finished the last of his whiskey and set the glass down. "I ended him." Sophia's hands trembled as she clutched the divorce papers. She had expected anger, a confrontation, maybe even a second chance to explain herself, to manipulate him just as she had before. But this? Alex wasn't fighting. He wasn't giving her an opening. He was ending it on his terms. She looked up at him, searching his face for anything: rage, pain, regret. But there was nothing, just cold precision. "Alex," she whispered, "you don't understand. Damien, he's dangerous. If you think you can just end him, you're underestimating him." Alex smirked, the kind of smirk that sent chills down her spine. "No, Sophia, you're the one who underestimated me." She swallowed hard. "What did you do?" Alex leaned against the bar, rolling his whiskey glass between his fingers. "While Damien was busy playing games with you, I was burying him." Sophia shook her head. "He won't go down that easily." Alex arched an eyebrow. "You think so?" He walked to his desk, picked up a tablet, and tossed it onto the coffee table in front of her. "Watch." Sophia hesitated, then tapped the screen. A live news broadcast appeared. Sophia hesitated, then tapped the screen. A live news broadcast appeared. Breaking news. Damien Caldwell under investigation for fraud. Her breath caught in her throat. No. The screen cut to a serious-looking anchor. Shocking developments today as sources confirm that Damien Caldwell, lead attorney at Caldwell & Associates, is facing an ethics investigation for allegedly manipulating case evidence and engaging in fraudulent financial dealings. Sophia's stomach twisted. How? Alex tilted his head. Let's just say, I made some friends in the right places. For weeks, Alex had been working behind the scenes. Sophia had been so focused on leaking privileged legal information that she hadn't realized. Alex had been feeding Damien bait, false case strategies, manufactured documents, an entire legal framework designed to look real, but built to collapse under scrutiny. And Damien had swallowed every lie whole. Then, Alex had turned to an old friend, a forensic accountant named Lucas Hale. With the right incentive, Lucas had combed through Damien's financials. What he found? Millions of dollars in unreported offshore accounts. Money funneled through dummy corporations. Illegal kickbacks from corporate clients. It was enough to ruin him. And now the Bar Association was involved. The news continued, showing a clip of Damien storming out of his office, swarmed by reporters. Mr. Caldwell, do you deny the allegations? Did you fabricate evidence in the Harrington Tech case? Are you resigning from Caldwell & Associates? Sophia's face went pale. He's done, Alex said simply. She looked up at him, wide-eyed. You set him up. Alex took another sip of whiskey. No, Sophia. I let him set himself up. She exhaled shakily, her gaze flickering to the divorce papers still in her lap. And what about me? Alex held her stare, his expression unreadable. You made your choice. A long silence stretched between them. Finally, Sophia swallowed her pride. I was wrong, Alex. He chuckled softly, shaking his head. Too late for that. She blinked back tears. Please, just tell me one thing. Did you ever really love me? Alex studied her for a long moment, then slowly leaned forward. Love, he murmured. Sophia, what we had was never love. He stood, walking to the door. Take the papers, sign them, and don't ever contact me again. Sophia sat frozen, watching as Alex opened the door, not just to his penthouse, but to the end of everything they had been. Goodbye, Sophia. She hesitated, then stood, clutching the envelope, and walked out without another word. As the door clicked shut behind her, Alex exhaled and turned back to the city skyline. He had won. But for the first time, he wondered, had he lost something too? Alex Carter had spent years fighting battles in courtrooms, boardrooms, and behind closed doors. He had played the long game, and he had won. Damien Caldwell was finished. The New York Bar Association had suspended him indefinitely, pending a full investigation. His firm had already begun removing his name from their letterhead. Corporate clients were fleeing, and the legal community had turned its back on him. And Sophia? She had disappeared. Alex didn't know where she had gone, and he didn't care. She had signed the divorce papers without another word, and that was all he needed. So why did victory feel so empty? That evening, Alex found himself at the annual Legal Honors Gala, one of the most prestigious events in New York's legal world. A week ago, he wouldn't have come. But tonight, he wanted to be seen. Because tonight wasn't just a party. It was a statement. As he stepped into the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel, all eyes turned to him. Some offered congratulations. Others whispered, wondering just how he had orchestrated Damien's downfall so flawlessly. Alex didn't confirm or deny anything. He simply smirked, sipped his whiskey, and let the rumors spread. Then, as he turned toward the bar, he heard a familiar voice. Alex. He looked up and saw Sophia, a final confrontation. She stood there in a stunning midnight blue gown, her blonde hair swept elegantly over one shoulder. She looked like she belonged here. But she didn't. Not anymore. Alex studied her for a moment, then took a slow sip of his drink. Brave of you to show up. Sophia's lips parted, as if she had rehearsed something, but instead, she just exhaled. I had to see you. He arched an eyebrow. Why? She hesitated, then stepped closer. You were right. Damien never cared about me. He used me and discarded me the second things fell apart. But Alex, don't. His voice was sharp. Cold. Sophia flinched. Alex leaned in, his voice just above a whisper. You betrayed me. You thought I wouldn't find out. You gambled on the wrong man, and now you want… what? Forgiveness? Her eyes glistened, but she didn't look away. I just want to know, was I ever more than a piece in your game? Alex's jaw tightened. A week ago, he might have hesitated, might have let himself feel something. But now? He simply smiled. Sophia, you were never even a good piece. Her breath hitched, but he was already walking past her, toward the center of the ballroom. A waiter passed by, and Alex took another glass of whiskey. Then, without looking back, he lifted his glass in a mocking toast, to victory, to power, to the end of everything. As he took a sip, the entire legal world watched. And Sophia? She was already fading into irrelevance. The next morning, Alex stood in his office, looking out at the city. His war was over. His greatest rival was ruined. His betrayer was gone. But as he stared at the skyline, one thought lingered. Did I win? Or did I just become the thing I hated? He pushed the thought away. There was always another case, another battle, another victory. And as he turned back to his desk, he smirked, because Alex Carter never lost.